Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the merciful and compassionate. We also say, in the name of Allah, the creator and the sustainer. Allah is the one who supplies everything in this world. Everything that we have comes from him. Everything that we know comes from him. Everything that we see comes from him. He is constantly in a state of giving, and we, each of us, are constantly in a state of receiving. This is where the first confusion arises. If we don't recognize that Allah is the giver, then we begin to believe that we, in fact, are responsible for having the things that we have. We, in fact, are responsible for the fact that we are sustained. We are responsible for our food. We are responsible for our wealth. We have done all of these things. This is not the truth. What this does, however, is it distracts us from what our true purpose in this creation is. We begin to believe that our purpose in this creation is to provide for ourselves, is to make things available to us. What we need to somehow understand is Allah has taken on the responsibility of providing for us. And he does provide for us. So the question in a sensible person should be, why am I working so hard at something that somebody else has already taken care of for me? Do we understand that? Do we understand that all that we have has been taken care of for us by our God? Or do we believe that we are the ones who provide for ourselves? There's an old saying, trust in God, but tie your camel. Well, you should also realize God gave you the rope to tie your camel, and God gave you the camel. So even though you're tying your own camel, it still all came from God. Each of us in our lives has been in situations that were very, very difficult, and that we thought there was no solution to. In truth, if we would rely on ourselves to resolve these incredibly difficult situations, then in truth, there may not be any hope or any solution. But if we give our trust in God, if we hand over to God our belief that things will become accomplished, then we do have hope, because there is now a higher source that can resolve things for us. That which is beyond our capability is not beyond God's capability. And to be able to access that which is beyond our capability. We have to have trust in God. That trust in God allows things to happen for us that are held from us if that trust doesn't exist. Veils cover us, but veils are lifted when we become less attached to this world and more attached to our Creator. We have to focus on what our responsibility is in this world. And to do that, we have to know what our responsibility is in this world. So, what is our responsibility in this world? Our responsibility is to understand the difference between haq, reality, and illusion, and to cleave to reality and let go of illusion. To do this, we have to enter into a space where we are not so enamored by the world. As long as we love the world too much, we will not make the room to love God. As we love God more, we begin to understand the nature of the treasure that exists, that is available to us, that is called Allah, which is greater than any treasure that can be found in this world. But as long as we use the mind to understand truth, we are limited to understanding illusion. And we are trapped within illusion because the mind is elemental and it functions within the elemental world. We need to be able to go beyond the elemental world. There is an entire unseen existence that is reality. This unseen existence is what we should be trying to understand and comprehend. And it is available to us if we have a teacher available to us who knows this unseen world, this world that can't be seen by the eyes, but can be felt by our being. The resonance of it can be understood by us, even though we can't measure it or weigh it, but we can comprehend it. Love can't be seen, but its effects are evident everywhere in our existence. Without love, we become different people. With love, we become different people. Love makes us more. When we are loved, we become more. And when we become capable of loving, we become more again. One of the great tools that the true sheikhs use in their relationship to their dervishes, in relationship to their followers, is that they love their followers. And in that love, they elevate the nature of the ones who come near them. The resonance of the love that is given by a sheikh makes somebody more than they were before they entered into the arena of that love, because it makes them understand that this love is more important than whatever else they have in the world. This love is more important than their wealth. This love is more important than their fame. This love is more important than anything that they have. And it's difficult to explain that to somebody who hasn't felt that kind of love. But when that relationship exists, where unconditional love is given to you, all of a sudden you are taken and brought higher and higher and higher, because you are worthy of that love. And you begin to realize that you are worthy of that love. And when that love is given to you and you are elevated, you become a different being. You begin to be on the straight path towards reality, as opposed to floundering and trying to swim in the ocean of illusion, hoarding the treasures of the elemental world. You are given an escape route from this elemental world, an escape route to the divine. And that escape route starts with love. And then it expands. It expands into compassion. It expands into mercy. It expands into justice. It expands into a lack of differences between yourself and everyone else. It expands beyond duality into understanding the unity in all of existence, and that there is a connection between all of existence. And then it expands to where you are beyond race, you're beyond language, you are beyond religion. You are entering into the realm of the holy truth, the truth that exists from the Creator to all of his creation. He has created this world for us, and he's put within this world all we need for our sustenance and maintenance. He is the sustainer. He is the nourisher. He is the one who gives. Now, so many of us who don't understand the truth of that faith spend our time trying to maintain and sustain and nourish ourselves as if it hasn't already been done for us. What a waste of time. What a waste of effort to do something that somebody has already done on your behalf. Understand the relationship between man and God. God loves man so much that he's provided everything that you need in this world for you. Partake of it. It's here for you. And do what you have been created to do in this world. And what you have been created to do in this world is to come to know your Lord, to come to understand your Lord, to come to the state of wisdom so that you can find your Lord. There was a man who went to a monastery, and he had been floundering in the world, and he wanted to become enlightened. He wanted to understand reality. He wanted to know the truth. So he went and to the monastery, and they said, well, before you can go in, you have to be interviewed by the abbot. And the abbot sat with him and said, what is it that you want? And he said, I want to learn the truth. I've been floundering in this world. I don't seem to find my way. Nothing interests me. I'm bored all the time. There's nothing that I can do that is of any benefit to anybody else or myself. I want to be able to do something right. And the abbot continued to talk to him, small talk, and finally he said to him, is there anything that you excel at? Is there something that you're very good at, that you're better than other people at? And he said, well, when I was young, I learned how to play chess. And I've played a lot of chess in my life. And I've gotten to the point where I can beat most people. I'm pretty good at it. As a matter of fact, I would even say I'm very good at it, but that's about it. So the abbot said, wait a minute. And he brought one of the monks in, and he brought a chessboard, and he set them up to play a game of chess. And he said, this is going to be a very serious chess match. You say you are good. Well, I have a sword here. If you beat our monk, I will cut his head off and he will go to paradise. If our monk beats you, I will cut your head off. Now you say you're very good, so there shouldn't be any doubt in your mind that you can beat him. So they began to play the game of chess. And the abbot stood there with his sword. And the monk was good, but he wasn't as good as the man who had just come to the monastery. And after an hour or so, it became evident that the novice was going to win and the monk was going to lose. And the novice saw this, and he looked at the monk, and the monk was an older man, and he began to feel compassion for him. And he thought, if I beat him, I am taking his life. It is inappropriate for me to do that. And he began to make mistakes. And then it came to the point where the monk was about to beat him. And the abbot threw the chessboard over, and he said, there are no winners or losers in this game. But you who have come to find out about how to find the truth have found a way. Concentration and compassion. You've shown both of them. You've shown the concentration to be able to win the game, but you've also shown the compassion towards another life to save that life, and you're willing to give up your own life to do that. You're worthy of coming into this monastery. And if you stay here for a while, you will learn the true way. We have to have concentration on the world. And as we concentrate on the world, we have to have compassion towards what we encounter in the world. Now, we don't know what it is we're going to encounter, but what we can do is when we encounter people, when we encounter situations, we can always encounter them with compassion. We can always give compassion towards that situation. And in doing that, we begin to formulate within ourselves the attributes and qualities of our Lord. And in formulating, in gaining, in integrating the attributes and qualities of our Lord, we become more like our Lord. And what happens as we become more like our Lord, we develop a light body within our own being. Now, this doesn't happen in a day, and it doesn't happen in a week, but it happens over time. And it happens as you are able to integrate the non-elemental attributes of our Lord into our own being. So as you become more compassionate, you become more godlike. As you become more generous, you become more godlike. As you become more loving, you become more godlike. As your justice towards all equalizes, and whether it is your relative or a stranger, your justice is the same, you become more godlike. Each time we understand and integrate with one of the qualities of our Lord and bring it into our being, and then bring it into action in our life, we become more godlike. As we spend time with these attributes, we begin to understand the true value of these attributes. And it's only when we understand the true value of these attributes do we begin to move on the straight path. Because if we hold the wealth of the world, the fame of the world, the titles of the world as more important than Allah's compassion, or Allah's mercy, or Allah's justice, or Allah's equanimity, or Allah's treatment of everyone as the same, if we hold the treasures of the world as more important than those things, then we will become subject to those things. We will become attached to those things. And then ask yourself a question. When the time to leave this world comes, what is your fame going to do for you? When the time to leave this world comes, what is your material wealth going to do for you? When the time to leave this world comes, what are your titles going to do for you? Imagine what can be carried in a light world, in a world made up of light without elemental form. Only things that are without elemental form can make that transfer. Only things without elemental form can enter from this world into that world. And when we integrate within ourselves those elemental form, those non-elemental forms, when this body falls away, those non-elemental forms remain. And compassion and mercy remain. And they become who we are. The self is false. The self is temporary. The self is an illusion that we spend a lifetime trying to emphasize, trying to make bigger, trying to make stronger, trying to make more important, trying to satisfy, trying to beautify, trying to separate it from others as if it were more important, as if it somehow stands out, as if somehow we are more important. But in truth, these separations that we create around ourselves to try and make ourselves bigger and more important separate us from reality, separate us from truth, and in essence, separate us from our Lord. Separation is the opposite of unity. In existence, there is this great unity, this great togetherness, and this great compassion that overrides everything. We need to understand it. There is an ancient Buddhist story about a reincarnated soul that was on this earth as a deer. And he was the leader of a group of deer. And he had been an elevated being in this world. And he came to help these beings. He came back to help these beings. And he took his group of deer, and they lived deep in the forest. And they were able to escape the difficulties of being near men and of men hunting them. But the king of that kingdom died, and a new king took over. And this new king loved hunting, loved killing animals. And as soon as he became the king, at least once or twice a week, he and his men would rampage through the countryside, rampage through the woods, and go after animals. And then after the day was done, their wagons would come back loaded with deer and rabbits and whatever animals were in the woods. Well, this was all good for them, but it was very difficult for the farmers, because in order to go hunting, they trampled all the farmers' fields, and they made life very difficult for the people who were trying to raise crops. And they couldn't object to the king, so they tried to figure out something that they could do in order to stop the king and his men from trampling through all their fields. So they decided to build 2 stockades and trap 2 families of deers within these stockades, so that when the king wanted his meat, they could just come to the stockades and gather them. So the farmers went out into the woods, drove the deer into 2 stockades that they had previously built, and then locked the stockades. So now this elegant deer that had been reincarnated to help these animals was in one stockade, and another group of deer were in another stockade. The farmers then went to the king and told him what they had done, and then they came and they took their daily provision from these stockades. This caused great pain and anguish among the deer, of course, because they were all being sacrificed. Finally, the deer determined amongst themselves that they had to at least cut down on the killing. So they decided they would draw a lottery, one time from one group, one time from the other group, and one deer would go to the front of the stockade and sacrifice himself. The king came and saw what was going on, and he saw this elegant deer, and he thought, this deer must have connived all this, but I'll go along with it because it satisfies what we need, and at least some mercy is shown to the animals. One day, a doe who was pregnant had drawn the lottery, and it was her turn to go forward. And she came and she said to the king, the deer king, she said, it says one must die, but I am 2. I should at least be postponed until I have my baby. And the king said to her, you're right. And we have to do something about that. And he thought about it, and he realized he couldn't ask somebody else to sacrifice themselves. And since he was the leader, he had an obligation towards each one of his people, his deer, and he would be the one to sacrifice himself. So he came, and that place where the sacrifice took place, he stood. And the people who worked for the king, who came to shoot the deer that day, saw that the great deer was the one who had come forward. And the king, when he had seen this deer, gave specific instructions not to kill this most noble deer. So they didn't know what to do. So they came and ran to the king, and the king came. And he saw the deer standing in the place of sacrifice. And at that time, there was communication between man and animal. And the king said to him, "Why are you in this space? I have told my men not to kill you because your nobility is evident." And he said, "A doe came to me today and said she was pregnant." And it was her turn to come before the place where the sacrifice happened. But she said she is two, and only one is supposed to die. And she was correct. So I put myself in that spot. And the king became overwhelmed by this sense of mercy and compassion that he saw in an animal. And he was very moved. And he said to the deer, "Your tribe is released. You can go, all of you." And the deer said, "Well, that's not enough. The other tribe in the other stockade, I can't bear the suffering they're going to go through." And the king again felt this overwhelming compassion and said, "That tribe can also be released." And then the deer said to him, "That's not enough. I have compassion for every one of the four-legged beings in your kingdom that you hunt constantly. You have to let them go also." And a stone fell from the king's heart, and tears came from his eyes. And he said, "They can also be free." And then the deer said, "That's not enough. You have the birds in the sky that you've been killing for years. You have to let them go also." And the king said, "As a mercy towards your mercy, I will also make a decree that we don't kill any more birds." And then the deer said, "But there are also the silent ones, the fish in the streams and the rivers. You have to let them go also." And the king agreed and put out an edict that from now on in his kingdom, no animal could be killed. In essence, he made his kingdom into vegetarians, and he did away with the slaughter of animals because of his connection with that animal. He understood the suffering that they went through. And there was a change in his heart, and there was a change in the entire kingdom because of the change in his heart. We need to have a change in our heart. We need to be able to feel the suffering of all of humanity. We need to be able to feel the suffering of all animals. We need to be able to comprehend the suffering that goes on in this world, and we have to react to it. We can't point the finger at someone else and say, "You have to react to it." We have to react to it. And by gaining that sensitivity, by gaining that empathy, by gaining that respect and love and kindness for all of creation, we are assisting in God's work. And as we assist in God's work, we become closer to God, and this light body within us increases and becomes more and more and more. And this is our path. To provide for ourselves, to worry about where we're going to get our next meal is not our path. To worry about how much money we have is not our path. To worry about our fame and our importance is not our path. We have to bury our ego. We have to bury our attempts at fame. Nothing grows without being buried first. And for us to truly sprout, to truly become who we are supposed to be, we have to bury all of the egocentric, arrogant parts of ourselves, and then the truth of who we are can come out. And this needs to be our prayer. May Allah allow us to know in truth who we are. May Allah allow us to know the nature of his compassion and his mercy. May his compassion and his mercy enter us, and may we become, each and every one of us, compassionate and merciful as our Lord is, and find our way towards his kingdom. Ameen, Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.